Good afternoon. This is Rich Nelson with Allendale with a special Market Movers Report Day update here. This is December 10th of 2013 here. Today marks the monthly supply-demand report here for the month of December. Keep in mind before we get to the actual numbers that this December report is really just a stepping stone report until we wait for this the big update, which actually come in January. So no changes are made to any of the production numbers: corn, soybeans, and wheat. And that is completely normal for this report by itself here. Now for corn, we did see some changes on some demand side here, which really were some were expected and some were a little bit of a surprise here. As far as the expectations, we did see this increase for exports of 50 million bushels, and that did fit in with what we've seen for a very strong pace in recent sales here. So we can't argue at all with that 50 million bushel increase for exports. We will point out there was some surprise with a change in ethanol here. The EPA, of course, as you know, has proposed to lower the RFS standard, the renewable fuel standard, for 2014, and they are currently in the middle of this comment period. Typically, USDA will not make a change in their numbers here based on their own personal projections. Typically, they wait until after the comment period, in this case, will be over before making a change. However, like I said, the actual increase in ethanol was a little bit of a surprise here. At best, you're looking at steady. You could even argue, maybe some people could say, even lower ethanol here. So that was of interest there. As far as corn, a minor change in imports was also seen there as well. But the main issue here is today's move down from ending stocks of 1.887 billion bushels down to 1.792. Well, it does seem like it's a bullish issue, but keep in mind this number from 1.9 down to 1.8, these are still tremendously large stocks, over double last year's level here. Also, keep in mind as far as numbers on this end, the trade does have very clear expectations that the January report will see an increase for corn production. And you could also argue perhaps we'll see that lowering of ethanol back again here. So the market is not going to trade this 1.8 ending stock number here. They are actually personally trading a 1.9 billion bushel stock level here. So if we had the numbers left at USDA's numbers, we're probably going to get 420 for a price. However, since the market is going to trade with the assumption that January will see an increase in production, we will probably see a 395 for our current downward price target on these futures here. As far as world numbers, no changes actually made to Brazil or Argentina. That was a surprise. Some were suggesting maybe a slight decrease as far as corn. We did see increases for Canada and Ukraine. So overall, we're still left with a very burdensome supply issue here as far as corn stocks. This is not as large as it was 20 years ago by comparison when looking at stocks-to-use numbers, but certainly compared to the past 5 years, these are quite different numbers than the tight numbers we've become used to here. As far as soybeans, like I said before, no change in production, which is normal for this report. They did go ahead and raise exports by 25 million bushels. That fits in perfect with the very strong pace that we've seen here as far as actual sales so far. In fact, I could even argue we should see an increase maybe on the January report coming up again. So that's a possibility to keep in mind. As far as other numbers on the demand side, crush was raised by 5 million bushels. Not too much to say about that end here. Imports were actually raised by about 10 million bushels here. In a conversation with Corden just a few minutes ago here, Corden made the good point that perhaps we'll see these imports may be directed just for this East Coast issue here, where they definitely need those soybeans here. So as a whole, ending stocks on soybeans declined from 170 down to 150 million bushels. That was entirely expected, though. As far as the world side, there was actually no change for Brazilian soybean production. That was a little bit of a surprise. We've seen in the last week and a half numbers from 90 to about 90.7 million tons, but USDA decided to keep theirs unchanged at 88 million tons here. So as far as that goes, that was a little bit of a surprise. Argentina was raised by 1 million ton. Not much of a surprise on this end here. So as a whole, this move down to 150 million bushels, like I said, was expected. But in terms of prices, we're still keeping our 1250 downside target intact for these futures. We have no problem at all with this market currently trading above 13 because right now this is a U.S.-based market. However, as the South American crop develops, and perhaps as we get into maybe the January time frame, maybe later February, we can argue that South America will retake the trade's focus and that prices could move back down to our 1250 target. Over on wheat, looks like as a whole, we've only got really not too much to say regarding numbers. Of course, they left numbers unchanged on production, and as far as demand, really no main changes there either here. We've got a drop in ending stocks down from 575 million down to 565 million bushels. That was due to mainly imports here as far as the only changes. On the world side, we did see Ukraine and Canada, Australia and Canada increase for production. Canada was up by a strong 4 million tons. Australia up by 1 million ton. No changes were made to the one area where the trade was very focused on, which was Argentina. USDA left their numbers unchanged at 11 million tons. Keep in mind the Argentine government in just the past few days actually put their number at 8.5. So quite a bit of difference regarding this Argentine wheat situation, which the USDA will have to address in the future here. So as a whole, we're looking at about 650 here as far as targets on the wheat, which this market currently is at. And perhaps as corn goes lower, perhaps we'll see some very slight pressure here in the coming days here. So overall, as a whole, this is a December report. This is a yawner, as it normally is, and the trade will certainly be very interested in the January numbers, which of course, certainly have some very big moves in the past few days or past few years here. If you have any questions about this report, markets or marketing in general, feel free to give us a call here at Allendale, 1-800-262-7538.